So although we got a little bit of snow yesterday and are expecting more on Wednesday, and mid 20s in the morning, we've got hummingbirds. So I got two of my feeders up. Third one, I'll explain that in a minute. Thought I'd make this video so I can remind everybody how important it is to knock on wood while bragging. It took me a long time to learn that lesson, and I'm paying for it. So when I first bought this land, before we even built the cabin, I put up a 6-foot wire fence around an acre out of my 5 acres, left the other 4 for the wildlife. And a bunch of friends up here would like to have some of these specialty flowers that I've got around here for my butterfly garden, but they can't because of the deer. So before I started knocking on wood, I had bragged that, well, I don't have any problems with anything eating any of my plants because nothing can get through the fence. I forgot about the underground critters. And the past 2 seasons, I've been completely devastated in several different of my gardens. My hummingbird garden here was beautiful. He ate every one of those. And most of this stuff usually happens in the winter. Now, average in the winter, the snow is about this high, so somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.5 feet. And when the snow melts is when I find out what kind of damage has been done. Just wiped out this, or started to wipe out this specialty daylily garden, and in a hurry I had to move them into these raised beds over here, and I'm going to do an actual video about why those are special daylilies. This bulb garden of mine, absolutely beautiful the first year, about 3 years ago when I planted it. The next season he had sucked 2 dozen tulips down through the ground, a bunch of those giant hyacinths, and every one of my crocuses. So he probably wiped out 50 or 60 bucks worth of bulbs. So this season, or last fall, when I planted these, I took these little 2-gallon planter buckets, lined the bottom with this wire mesh, and then stapled the same wire mesh over the top of it for the winter. Now, so far so good. In fact, my red ones are just getting ready to open up. So it's most definitely springtime. Now, when I realized how important it was to knock on wood, I originally started carrying this thing with me everywhere I went. And I started getting strange looks in the grocery stores, laundromat, and then quite a few encounters with law enforcement. So I decided, not to carry this anymore. Apparently people were threatened by it. So I got rid of that. I went to this piece here. Now this goes with me everywhere. So if I'm tooting my own horn, you got to knock on wood. And it doesn't work with gloves. You've actually got to take your gloves off. So it happened again to me last night, and I learned my lesson. I was going to a barbecue, and I decided to just bring this cedar shim. Okay, now either cedar doesn't work, or this is just too small of a piece of wood to take effect. My hummingbird feeders here. We were talking about the hummingbirds coming in last night, and I've got glass feeders. They're kind of the high-dollar feeders. I don't like those plastic ones anyway. BPA. We were talking that it's going to get so cold that it might not be a good idea to put the feeders out yet. At the same time, we've got hummingbirds here that are frequenting. And so I had talked, no, I've got these heavy duty glass ones, and they won't crack. Well, I've got room for a third feeder there. And when I knocked on this after I bragged that my glass feeders wouldn't crack, I came home and filled these things up with hot sugar water, and it came in contact with a little bit of cold water and put a crack right down the center of it. So I learned my lesson with the cedar. Got to get rid of that. This is the guy I'm going to take with me everywhere. It's worked every time I remember to do it. Like I said, no gloves. And I use this thing so much. Let's see if you guys can see this. See the difference from down here? I always carry it like this. Done a lot of knocking on that piece of wood there. So remember, folks, if you're going to brag, knock on a piece of wood. No gloves, and it's got to be at least this big. And you don't want to carry a big long stick like that either, because people will get frightened.